I feel like there used to be quiet moments in Berserk. Hello and welcome. A few things right up top. As usual, there is a Discord link in the description. Go ahead and jump in there, join, discuss on there. Also, reminder, I will be having a live stream when I hit 1,000 subscribers. I have not yet. As I sit here recording, I'm at 979. So hopefully very soon will be the live stream. Also, from the comments that I got last week, I have decided that I will be watching and reviewing Chainsaw Man on the channel. Every single week I'll be watching and reviewing an episode of Chainsaw Man. Also, I'll be taking a mini break from Berserk because I'm almost done with Volume 11 and Volume 12 comes out in November. So I'm going to wait until Volume 12 comes out to pick up where this one leaves off. That will mean that there will be a few week break in between Berserk content. Don't worry, I'll get like a comments video in there for sure. But also, I'm going to use those couple weeks to start Dorohedoro. So basically, in the month of October, we're going to take a little break from Berserk, and this channel's going to become Chainsaw Man and Dorohedoro Central, as well as some other general book content that I do, because guess what? Believe it or not, I haven't stopped reading normal books too. Oh, and blam! Oh my God. Maybe I'm doing too much. Would you believe I have a full-time job too? This is a nightmare. And children. Anyway, on to the content. So here we are. Shirka's all used up, and she can't cast any more spells. She can't even walk, apparently, because Guts is going to give her a little bit of a piggyback ride. When suddenly the sea monsters appear, and I'm not talking like one or two. Like, we're talking like holy shit, there's a lot of them. And at this point, it's obvious that one thing has to happen, and that is that Guts has to go Berserk. There is literally, realistically, there's no other option at this point. But Shirka can't even walk, let alone cast a spell, let alone jump in there and bring him back from the brink like she normally would. So this is actually a pretty tense moment. But there's literally no time to worry about any of that, and he's going to go ahead and go Berserk because what else can we do here? And he doesn't even think to put Shirka down first. So Guts goes Berserk and Shirka collapses. But because Shirka was on Guts' back when he went Berserk, she somehow got trapped in her body fell, but her mind or in consciousness somehow got trapped inside of the Berserker armor, which simultaneously feels like plot convenience, but at the same time, if you look at everything that they've built with her and her abilities and her powers and the things that she has been able to do and has done thus far, it also feels quite appropriate and believable that this would be something that was possible or could or would happen, while kind of feeling a little bit plot conveniency. But it's been built and developed enough that it feels perfectly fine. Did that make any sense? I hope that made sense. Also, on top of all of that, this whole chunk is going to be really quite entertaining to read. So even if it did fall into the bubble of plot convenience, it would be very easy to forgive. So all of the positives are clearly outweighing any potential negative here. But anyway, if you thought those sea monsters were going to be a problem here, they're not. I mean, he's going to tear through them like they're tissue paper, literally just like and they're gone. They like a page, and that whole line of sea monsters that we thought were going to be a problem, they're not. Which I could poke fun at, but I won't, because I've played video games before and I know how this shit works. I mean, let's be honest. If you've played, I don't know, Doom or anything like that, you know that the level 1 boss fight, by the time you get to the end of the game, those bosses that you had won and you thought you were gonna die just trying to take it out, by the end of the game, you just walk into random rooms and the room's literally full of them. But you have been drip fed a few little extra powers and a few little bit of extra abilities, and then hours of grinding out legitimate experience on that game, and suddenly you're tearing through rooms of them as if they were nothing, and that sucker gave you a run for your money at the beginning of the game. So this is totally fine. Yeah, that checks out. But anyway, he kills them all, flies through the air, and he lands on Luffy's ship and comes face to face with the floating guy from before. Kind of like Dalsim with dreadlocks. And he says, I suppose I can't call you a swordsman. And then he says something like, well, I'll be damned. You wrap yourself in the prana of Durga. Which appears to me that he recognizes the Berserker armor. Maybe. But it's hard to tell if he does or if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't recognize the Berserker armor, then why does he have a name for that armor? But he also says that their magic differs from their own. But he also mentioned something about the fire wheel. So was the your magic differs from ours just about the fire wheel, and he does recognize the armor, or was it about the armor and the fire wheel, and he just is referring to the armor as such? I don't know. It was super confusing. But if he does recognize it, then where is that armor really from? But anyway, he introduces himself as Paramaisha Sanaini Daba. It took a couple takes. And then he does like the Matrix thing and says, come at me. And you're like, really? But it's come at me, warrior of Durga, which he doesn't say warrior. He says this, but I'm not even attempting that one, which translates to warrior. So we'll just go with that. But my mind is still stuck on the fact that he gave the armor a name. So now he's calling him a warrior of Durga. So is that because that he's wearing this armor that he recognizes? Or is it just him placing assumptions onto Guts because of his beliefs and his gods and because Durga is a goddess, is a warrior goddess in his culture, is he just projecting onto Guts, or does he literally recognize this armor? This is really bothering me at this point if you can't tell. I need to know. But don't put it in the comments if it's a spoiler. But the wizard attacks and Guts goes completely nuts like he does, but because Shirka's on board, she's going to reach up and kind of like put her hand on his temple or his cheek, whatever, and tell him to open up his eye, which effectively he does both figuratively and literally, but it effectively gives him the ability to utilize the power of the armor while keeping his wits about him, which immediately saves him right off the bat because it's going to give him the ability to control himself in a free fall. Then he runs over and saves the group from a falling mast from a ship, to which he immediately turns to Serpico and he's like, dude, are you going to help or not? So Serpico's now helping. And didn't I say in the last video that Serpico and Guts are our two main fighters because they're pretty much the best of the best? Here we go again. Serpico and Guts are two main fighters because they're pretty much the best of the best. And I have no complaints here. I am totally on board with this decision being made story-wise. Absolutely. Anyway, now the sorcerer is going to summon a big water snake. And it is now a big water snake battle. Berserk battle. I don't know. But as far as Berserk battles go, it's good. It's good. It's quite a lot of fun. And of course, the snake is very tough and no one can break through the water. And Shirka's going to point out that there's this little snake body inside of the water. You don't need to worry about anything about the big snake. Just get to the little snake inside the big snake. That's the weak point. Go for that and we're all good. So they go for that little snake inside, but they still can't get to it because, you know, the Eastern magic is just too tough. Honestly, it just can't be that easy. We need a little bit more tension. But then Guts and Shirka work together, and Shirka casts that fire wheel spell again, but instead she directs the spell into Guts' sword. And now Guts is going to use that sword to steam up the water or pierce the water. You know, it'll like evaporate or something. I don't know. When his burning, flaming sword hits it, and it stabs the little snake inside the big snake and kills the demon thing. But here's my takeaway from all of this. I thought Shirka couldn't cast magic right now because she was too down and out. But here she is just casting spells willy-nilly. I mean, we have this panel that says I can't cast spells. And here she is casting spells. I mean, who's keeping track anyway, right? But then, just as the sorcerer is defeated, he summons a giant bird and flies away. Oh, but it's not over yet because now the king's going to come out to play. Remember the king, like he was like that ceiling of lightning, that guy? Yeah, he's back. Yeah, he's here and he's real mean. But he hits Guts a few times with some lightning, and Guts basically ends up using his massive sword as a lightning rod and kind of gets down, ducks down below it and lets it absorb all the hits. but this allows him enough time for him and the king to have a little conversation, where the king realizes that his archenemy is Griffith, and he notices that Guts is one of the branded, which means that Guts' enemy is either Griffith or at the very least one of the demons underneath Griffith. So the king then comes to the idea of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So therefore he's going to reach out to Guts, and he offers Guts to serve underneath him in battle, which is probably not the best way of wording it. So of course Guts says no. When suddenly a swarm of demons attacks, and they are being led by none other than Nosferatu Zod. And Zod himself is going to take a shot at the king. And it's not going to go too well for Zod. Like, not even Zod can take down the king of the demons, the Lightning Lord. So apparently he's pretty damn powerful if Zod can't even get to him. But real quick, we are going to get a flashback of Zod leaving for this particular battle, and he's even warned by the big Grundlebeld guy, I think his name is, or something like that, to be careful when he goes against the king because he cannot be hurt. And then also as he's leaving, he's going to be stopped by Sonya, and Sonya's going to feed him the prophecy of, you will have a decision to make, to fight the sword that cut you once or make that sword your own weapon, or something like that. So flash forward back to the battle with Zod, who has just had his ass handed to him, who looks over and sees Guts, who has just had his ass handed to him, and he kind of scoops him up out of the water. And now they're off to fight the king together. And Shirka's going to tell him to aim for the spot just between his eyes, which is, you know, essentially his weak spot, kind of like the snake was the snake's weak spot. That sounds so weird to say. The little snake was the big snake's weak spot. But anyway, they're going to team up and they're going to go after the big bad lightning monster. But hold up for just a second and let me get this straight. So Guts will not team up with Griffith's enemies to fight Griffith. But Guts will team up with Griffith's allies to fight Griffith's enemies. Because that's what's happening here. By the way, that's extremely unfair. Yes, that is exactly what's happening, but it's also extremely reductive, considering all the history involved here. And the king kind of wanted to team up with Guts as like a master-servant relationship, and he's teaming up with Zod as more of an equals relationship, and there is no history between him and the king, and there is a lot of history between him and Zod, so it's very unfair, but at the same time, it is technically, it's kind of true. So check that shit out. Kind of twist your brain there for a second. But anyway, they go after him together and they take him out. And I had a comment on my last video saying that I was coming up on his favorite panel. And if I was a betting man, I would put money that that particular comment was talking about this particular panel. And as cool as this panel is, getting a 2-page spread and all that, I put a gun to my head and I'd say that I personally like some of the shots of Zod landing actually a little bit better. Like this one in particular. I wouldn't say that the panels are better necessarily. I think I just like them better. I don't know, something about the aftermath and just that him landing. It's just kind of awesome. But anyway, against all odds, Guts is going to stand up after all of that and face Zod. And they will ultimately agree to have their personal duel at another time. And Zod's going to fly away and Guts is literally going to collapse because I don't even know how he stood up. But, you know, he has that inhuman willpower that literally got him on his feet just long enough for Zod to fly away before he falls over. Also, he kind of talks shit to Zod as he's flying away because Guts just can't help himself. He's a little ridiculous. So then the gang takes Guts' barely conscious body out to Prince Charming's ship. And sometime later, I was gonna say meanwhile, but Zod's there, so it can't be meanwhile. It has to be at least sometime later. So, sometime later, the Kushan army has completely surrounded the Holy Sea army. And they are outnumbered on every front and in every way, when suddenly the band of the Hawk shows up and starts helping out the Holy See army. They ambush the Cushion army from the sides and shit. Except for now, the band of the Hawk is made up almost entirely of demons, and they pretty much wipe out the Cushion army just like that. Although the Cushion has demons too, they're just not here at this time, as far as I can tell. When Griffith walks up and walks straight into the king's palace, and then once he's in the palace, he walks straight up to the king, and him and the king are going to have an epic showdown. I'm just kidding, it's conversation. I mean, the king transforms like it's going to be an epic showdown, but it's not, because Griffith pretty much immediately overwhelms the king, like in every possible way. Just his presence alone is overwhelming, and then he immediately blows in a wind, like a little breeze or something, and blows out the king's electricity, which apparently was his weakness that nobody knew about but Griffith. But ultimately, they're going to agree to have their showdown at a later date, kind of like Guts and Zod. These are very anticlimactic conversations. But they agree to a rematch at the Demon City. But anyway, the Cushions leave, and now Griffith is left behind with the Holy See army that he has just saved from the Cushion army. And, oh, yay, he also just reinvigorated the Pontiff's will to live. What could possibly go wrong when the demon embodiment of ultimate evil, basically this world's version of the Antichrist, has now saved both the Pontiff/Pope and the Holy Army? I mean, nothing bad could come of this, right? But anyway, we're going to end on a victory shot of Griffith. And oh, good for you. Good for you, Griffith. I hate that guy too. Anyway, this was pretty bonkers, wasn't it? I thought it was quite good. I thought the fight was quite good. All of the fights were quite good in this one. I quite enjoyed them. I thought the stakes were good. The tension was good. I think this section mostly is building tension and building the stakes for what's happening in the story right now. And all in all, and in general, I think it was done quite well. I thought the continuation of the drip feeding of the world building continues to expand little by little, nothing major. The drip feed of little mysteries and tidbits and information, little by little, nothing major. And the team up between Guts and Zod was very satisfying to watch. And it felt earned as a whole in the story. It felt earned. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give at least this little chunk an 8.5. I was very happy. I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Anyway, everybody, thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you next time.